A man believes he has found the right woman. At last, he tells himself, life is no longer empty. She is his completion, the missing piece that will finally make him whole. But soon, his days change shape. His ambitions soften, his fire cools, his choices bend around her preferences. He is proud to say he has someone, yet quietly, without noticing, he has lost himself. This is not strength disguised as love. It is weakness in its most seductive form. Schopenhauer saw this clearly. He remained unmarried his entire life, and once wrote that to marry is to have one's rights and double one's duties. He called marriage a form of madness, a surrender of independence to the blind force of nature. To him, the man who places his destiny in the hands of a woman is no longer free. He is the slave, smiling at his chains because they are covered in the soft velvet of affection. History is filled with men who discovered this paradox too late, great minds, warriors, and artists who began as lions but ended as docile companions. They believed they had found completion in love, but what they found was compromise, exhaustion, and a quiet surrender of their true will. The illusion of the right woman promised strength. The reality was submission. And here lies the cruelest twist. Society applauds the man who gives himself away. He is celebrated as stable, mature, responsible. But beneath the applause, his energy has been redirected, not toward greatness, but toward sustaining a domestic order that slowly consumes him. The paradox is clear. The moment a man believes he has won by finding the one, he begins to lose. From the moment a boy begins to understand the world, he is taught that his story is unfinished without her. Fairy tales, films, and songs all whisper the same lie. You are incomplete, and only love will complete you. She is the missing piece, the light to your darkness, the destiny you must find. A lifetime of conditioning makes men believe that happiness is not an inner task, but an external reward waiting in the arms of the right woman. Schopenhauer called this belief one of nature's most cunning tricks. It is the will, the blind, relentless drive of life itself that implants in men the hunger for completion. Men think they are chasing romance, but in truth, they are carrying out nature's orders. Nature whispers, find her, bind her, reproduce. And men obey, mistaking obedience for destiny. What feels like profound meaning is often nothing more than biology manipulating their energy. The dream of completion feels intoxicating. To believe that a woman can fill the void inside is comforting, almost sacred. But the price of this illusion is heavy. A man who pursues it transfers his strength outward, attaching his value to someone else's presence. He becomes dependent, not only on her affection, but on her recognition, her approval, her stability. What once was ambition directed towards his mission is now redirected towards maintaining the relationship that defines him. And the result? Instead of becoming whole, he becomes divided. Instead of being strengthened, he becomes drained. The man who believes fulfillment lies in another person will always walk with a hidden weakness, the fear of losing her. Every decision, every risk, every dream must pass through the filter of whether she will remain. He is not free. He is bound by the illusion that she completes him. Schopenhauer stripped away the romantic mask and revealed what lies beneath. Desire is not divine, it is not destiny, it is nature's deception. What men call falling in love is, at its core, the will manipulating them. That fire in the chest, the obsession, the belief that she is the one, these are not signs of cosmic alignment. They are biological chains disguised as passion. When a man feels the pull of desire, he tells himself he has chosen. He believes his heart is free, that he has discovered his soulmate. But Schopenhauer argued the opposite. In those moments, man is least free. He is being moved by forces larger than himself, blind forces that care nothing for his dreams, his ambition, or his sovereignty. He thinks he is writing his story, but in truth, he is reciting nature's script, word for word. Desire enslaves men because it convinces them they are acting with purpose. The illusion of choice blinds them to the reality of manipulation. Nature does not care if a man fulfills his mission or builds his empire. Nature only cares that he mates, that he binds himself, that he continues the cycle. And so, desire becomes a trap, a fire that burns not to elevate him, but to consume him until his energy is spent. The cruelest part is how noble it feels. A man believes he is risking everything for love. He sacrifices time, wealth, and freedom for her, thinking he is acting with honor. But he has been tricked. The will, indifferent and cold, has convinced him to exchange his independence for a fleeting satisfaction. And when the fire of desire cools, as it always does, he is left weaker, chained to commitments born not of reason, but of blind compulsion.
Desire may ignite the bond, but commitment cements the chains. Once a man has committed himself through marriage, children, or even long-term devotion, the weight of obligation begins to settle on his shoulders. What once felt like freedom suddenly feels like duty. Every decision now passes through the lens of responsibility, compromise, and negotiation. Schopenhauer was merciless in his critique of this stage. To him, the married man no longer belongs to himself. He belongs to society. His strength is not directed inward toward self-mastery, nor outward toward creation, but downward into the maintenance of stability. His mission becomes divided, his focus fractured. He must now consider not just his own will, but hers, theirs, and the demands of the collective. In this way, he ceases to be sovereign. He becomes predictable, domesticated, a cog in the machine of social order. Consider how many men trade ambition for obligation. Careers are abandoned, risks avoided, dreams postponed, always in the name of providing, protecting, sustaining. And though society applauds such sacrifices, Schopenhauer would argue that the applause is hollow. It rewards conformity, not greatness. The man who once had infinite potential is now consumed by finite duties, his edge dulled by repetition and compromise. Even modern men feel this weight. The pressure to settle down, the expectation to commit, the judgment of those who remain free, these are all chains disguised as virtue. Commitment, once entered, narrows a man's horizons. He no longer asks, "What can I build?" but instead, "What can I maintain?" In this quiet shift, his fire dwindles. The will has succeeded. It has redirected his energy away from sovereignty and into servitude, all while convincing him he has achieved maturity.
The truth becomes clear once the weight of commitment settles. Most men are not strengthened by finding the right woman. They are weakened. Their energy, once singular and directed, is now scattered across countless negotiations. They begin to measure their worth not by their mission, but by the harmony of the relationship, by her approval, by her continued affection. In this way, they surrender their power without realizing it. Schopenhauer observed that men often believe they are choosing love freely, yet, in reality, they are submitting to forces that hollow them out. The man who once lived for ambition and creation now lives for stability and peace. He lowers his voice to avoid conflict. He hides parts of himself to preserve harmony. Slowly, he dissolves into a shadow of who he once was, proud of his sacrifice, but blind to his decline. This is why most men become weak. They confuse compromise with virtue, negotiation with wisdom, obedience with maturity.
They begin to treat their own mission as secondary to the maintenance of the bond. And in doing so, they abandon the very fire that made them strong in the first place. The world is full of such men. They are everywhere, tired, cautious, domesticated, still telling themselves that they are lucky to have found her. But their eyes betray them. Behind the polite smiles and the steady routines lies a silent truth. They no longer belong to themselves. And the man who no longer belongs to himself cannot be strong. He is no longer a master of his will, but a servant of his fear of losing what defines him.
If Schopenhauer could see the modern world, he would find his warnings confirmed in every statistic. Divorce rates remain high, and with each separation comes a trail of ruined finances, fractured families, and men stripped of years they can never recover. Courts take children, wealth, and freedom from men who once believed they had secured happiness by finding the one. What began as fulfillment ends as loss, and often humiliation. Beyond divorce, there is the quiet decline most men endure while staying in relationships. They surrender dreams of adventure, projects of creation, and paths of risk because they must always weigh their choices against the stability of the partnership. A man who once dreamed of building a business hesitates. Too dangerous. Another who longed for travel stays put. Too impractical. Another who wished to dedicate himself fully to art, philosophy, or mastery redirects his energy toward overtime hours and household demands. The fire dims, and mediocrity sets in. The modern culture of relationships only sharpens this decline. Men are told that to be good partners, they must give more, sacrifice more, prove their devotion endlessly. But each proof of devotion chips away at their independence until their very identity is built on service. Love becomes less a union and more a ledger of obligations. And still, society praises this decline as maturity. A man who sacrifices his sovereignty is applauded as responsible. A man who resists is shamed as selfish, immature, or afraid of commitment. In this way, culture enforces the very weakness Schopenhauer warned against. Men believe they are choosing happiness, when in truth they are choosing conformity to a system designed to drain them.
There is, however, another path, the path Schopenhauer himself chose. He remained unmarried, unwilling to surrender his freedom to the illusions of desire or the demands of society. For him, solitude was not loneliness, but sovereignty. He lived for philosophy, for writing, for the uncompromised pursuit of truth. His work, sharp and merciless, could not have been born from a man enslaved by domestic obligations. It was the product of independence, of a life not diluted by compromise. History gives us countless examples of men who preserved their strength through solitude. Nietzsche, who never married, wrote with a ferocity that shattered complacency. Beethoven poured his energy into symphonies that echoed across centuries, unsoftened by family demands. Even great leaders, from emperors to inventors, often avoided marriage or treated it as secondary to their mission. Their strength came not from the comfort of companionship, but from the clarity of purpose solitude afforded them. The sovereign alternative is not about hating women or rejecting love entirely. It is about refusing the illusion that a woman's presence is the key to fulfillment. It is about recognizing that every sacrifice of independence weakens the man who makes it. True strength lies in belonging to oneself fully, in protecting the flame of ambition from the winds of compromise. This alternative is harder. It demands that a man confront his own emptiness instead of outsourcing it to a relationship. It requires discipline, resilience, and a willingness to endure solitude.
But in exchange, it offers a reward no partnership can provide: unbroken sovereignty. The man who stands alone stands free, and it is only in freedom that greatness is born.
And so the question remains, do you still believe that finding the right woman makes you strong? Or do you now see the weakness it creates? Schopenhauer's warning was not a gentle suggestion, but a brutal truth. He revealed that men who seek completion in women are not choosing love. They are choosing servitude to the will. They are trading their sovereignty for comfort, their ambition for stability, their fire for security. Look closely at your own life. How many of your choices have been filtered through the hope of gaining or keeping her? How many dreams have been postponed because they did not fit the mold of partnership? How many risks have you avoided because they might disturb the harmony of the relationship? Every compromise that seems small in the moment becomes, over time, the quiet erosion of your strength. Schopenhauer's life stands as a provocation. He called marriage madness, and though many mocked him for his solitude, his writings outlived them all. His strength came not from union, but from resistance to illusion. And his challenge to men remains unchanged. Will you preserve your sovereignty, or will you dissolve it in the search for a woman who was never meant to complete you? In the end, the answer defines more than your love life. It defines your destiny. Strength belongs only to the man who belongs to himself. If you surrender that, you surrender everything. But if you guard it, if you refuse the illusions of completion, you stand as sovereign. And the sovereign man does not weaken in love's shadow. He endures, unbroken, because he has chosen the only path that leads to true power, belonging to himself and no one else.